Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. My name is Tony Martinez, and we have a quick session. We try to keep these to just a little over an hour, but I have a lot of content to share with you all. So I just ask you to go ahead and get something to write with and something to write on. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions. You can go ahead and type them into the chat area. And at the very end of the presentation, I'll go ahead and start looking over all these questions. Some of these are going to be answered during the presentation anyway, but let's get to work here. So today we're going to talk about distressed properties, the market update. It is very, very timely that the primary source that I use to update myself on what's going on foreclosure numbers across the country just released their recent numbers for both Q3 and for September. So I got some new stats to go ahead and share with you here today. So let's go ahead and quickly introduce myself. Some of you I know, some of you I don't, but a little bit about my background and what qualifies me to even be teaching on this. I am a team leader in South Florida. My wife and I co-lead a team of about 130 agents. We're active. We know what's going on. We understand the struggle is real. But my real passion is teaching. I have been teaching for longer than I can remember. I've had the opportunity of teaching in front of conventions, private offices, groups and such. I really live for the opportunity of kind of helping agents to build their career. The most teaching I've done is on the topic of short sales and distressed properties. And that goes back to all the way 2009 when I was teaching for the CDPE. I don't know if I have any OGs here. We affectionately refer to agents that were CDPs back in 2008, 9, and 10 during that time. And, they come back and they say, yeah, I'm an OG. And people say, what does that stand for? Well, it could be three different things. It started with two. You could be old guard, original gangster, and then someone threw in old goat. And I really don't like that one too much, but who am I to to argue with it? And my latest and greatest acquisition has been the MilRes certification. I have a tremendous passion for working with veterans and active military, and it's shameful that only 13% of veterans use the VA loan mortgage program. And so many of it is because the real estate agents themselves have no clue on how it works. I have been after this certification for years. I finally acquired it about 3 or 4 months ago, and now I'm teaching it. So I think I have two incredible courses for you on two awesome niches, one distressed properties and one in working with the military. So more on that later. But during my CDPE days, and some of you remember the CDP from the original get-go, it's just not a new designation. I own it now. It's private. That question comes up all the time. Hey, are you affiliated with NAR? I go, nope, not at all. But it originally goes back to 2008, and I joined them in 2009. They had about 600 members when I joined them. By the time I left, they had 48,000. I was their first trainer. I went on to train all the other trainers. Anybody and everybody that was in the industry was promoting the CDPE. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I was at the RE/MAX convention, R4 in Las Vegas. And Mr. Liniger himself talks about how the CDP was very instrumental during the worst times in keeping RE/MAX agents in the game. So that's just a little bit about my background. What are my 3 goals for today? I think there's a lot of opportunity within the distressed property market. The biggest challenge I have is getting people to wake up to it. But I'm definitely going to talk about the ways that you can go out there and do 2 quick things, right? You can go ahead and build your business. I'm sure all of you are okay with that. But how about helping some folks, right? How about helping folks avoid one of the most devastating things that can happen in their lives, and that's having a foreclosure on their record? I can teach you a lot, but I have to motivate you to actually use it. That's one of the biggest struggles we have. I have a lot of CDPs that are CDP in name only. And folks, you can sit in your garage all day long. It doesn't make you a Chevy. I don't want you to take my course just to have some initials after your name. Anybody can have initials after their name. What I really need you to do is get out there and do something with this, because the situation is real. And when I share some numbers with you, I think you're going to believe it. Now, third and foremost, if I do my job properly and I get you excited about working in this segment, I think you ought to know what you're talking about. And there isn't a lot of quality training on this topic. And that's where the CDPE comes in. If I can go ahead and establish the need for you and motivate you then by all means, I'm going to throw in a little sales pitch at the end. I think it'll be okay with you guys because I'm going to be giving you a lot of stuff that you're going to use or have the opportunity to use whether you ever invest in my course or not. But obviously, we're going to do an altar call at the end and say, how can you become a CDPE? I think this is the understatement of the year. If anything good has happened is if finally the industry has woken up to the fact that agents are in fact struggling. A couple of years ago, the top execs in the business, they were just feeding it to a bunch of bull. They just blowing smoke. Nobody wanted to talk about the real struggles that are happening out there. But now it's okay to talk about it. Well, here's a situation, and I hope you don't fall into this percentage. 71% of realtors did not close a single deal last year. All right. That's crazy. I think this year is going to be as bad, if not worse. We did slightly around 4 million units last year. I don't think we're going to beat that this year. So it is a real struggle. Here's a quick little marketing tip, nothing to do with the class, but this may benefit you. If you're among the 29% that actually did a sale or two or three or more, why don't you go ahead and do a social media post? And there's two ways you can do it. You can laugh at the other agents, but don't do that. Or you can say, you're proud to be among the 29% of real estate professionals that is actually producing in today's challenging market. Call me for all your real estate needs. So that might be a way of you separating yourself from the competition, right? I believe that my course can help you. The course in itself can't, the knowledge can't, the implementation of the knowledge can't. We are going through some very chaotic times in real estate. I don't know about your state. I'm in Florida. Every other minute, there's a new form that we have to learn that's being introduced. A lot of veteran agents have said no mas, they're out. We've seen agents leave the business saying, I can't deal with this. If I can't get paid, I won't do the work. Who says you can't get paid? You just have to do things differently. But the reality is that when it's chaos, there's also opportunity. So pick a side, right? That's really when it comes down to it. If you believe like me, that even though we have a changing market right now and it's becoming more and more of a buyer's market, how many of you would agree with a thumbs up that you list to last, that if you truly, truly want to be in this business for the long term, listings are still the name of the game. Now, obviously, you got to be priced right. Okay, it's not enough. I joke when I do my listing presentation class. I ask the agents in that class. I say, what do you do when you're sitting in the car before you get out and go in there? And agents say, I pray. I says, okay, what do you pray for? I pray to get the listing. Okay, well, maybe you ought to pray that you get a listing at the right price and it sells, because right now that's the biggest challenge a lot of agents are having. But see, here's what I'm going to throw your way and see if you feel this or not, because I get people that kind of like don't, and they're like, no, that's not right. But I don't think it's our job to motivate sellers to sell. If your leadership is telling you that what you need to do now is go out there and knock on more doors and talk to more people and go out there and try to convince people to have a 2% mortgage, 2.5% mortgage, that it's in their best interest to sell now, to go ahead and buy something at 6, I think that that's a strategy for 6, 12 months from now. I think that you should be doing that. I encourage my team members, absolutely farm, absolutely prospect, but those aren't the people that are going to list today. So here's what I believe. It's our job to identify motivated sellers, folks that have no choice but to sell. Now, tell me what category comes to mind when you think of people that may not have a choice but to sell. Pre-foreclosures. And that's why I think this niche is so incredibly powerful. I'm a firm believer that our industry needs a reset, man. We got too many general practitioners. During 2020 and 2021, if you wanted to print money, you owned a real estate school, because everybody and their brother was getting their license, because, hey, man, it was dollar bills. Everybody was getting paid. Now, now I don't even buy the list of new agents anymore, because it's like 4, 5, or 6 on there, because the realization is it ain't so easy to make money in real estate. Here's the biggest beef that I have, okay? Too many general practitioners. We need more specialists. Look at any field. Let's take the medical field. Like today, in fact, I went to see a general practitioner. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that dude ain't making the money a specialist is. Just about everything you need, they say, well, I got to refer you to a specialist. I got to refer you to a specialist. Hey, the doctor may be doing all right. He may be driving a Benz, but the specialist is driving a Lamborghini. So if you want to make more money in this business, stop trying to be all things to all people. Pick a side, pick a specialty or two or three, and really go after it. Here's one, pre-foreclosures. It's the low-hanging fruit. Why? Because people have their heads up there. I mean, have their heads in the sand. Because this is the industry right now. Nobody wants to talk about that people are hurting. I can't tell you how many doors have been slammed in my face in the 4 years since I bought the CDP and brought it back. That's right, CDP had closed down. I bought it, brought it back. And Association of Realtors, executives, team leaders. Oh, I don't want you talking to my agents about this. I go, why not? Because I don't want to bum them out. I don't want to get them scared. Okay. When it changes, we'll react. You know what some of the dumbest questions I'm asked? And yes, I'm one of those instructors that believe that there are dumb questions that are asked. I know it's not, proper to say that, but there's some stuff I've been asked that's insane. I'll give you an example because I feel really good today. I was at a class in Texas, loves me some Texas, and I'm talking about hardship and how you need a hardship to do a short sale. You feel me? I want to talk about this, right? And I had somebody raise their hand and said, can you pick a hardship? What do you mean pick a hardship? You mean put all the hardships on a dartboard, throw the darts, and 2 out of 3, that's the one you run with? No, it has to be real. It has to be something you're going through. But when I'm doing a convention next week, and I know this question, these 2 dumb questions are going to be asked. All right. Number 1 is, are foreclosures back? And my answer to that is, well, you know what? They never really went away. And then they go, oh, yeah. But is it going to be as bad as it was before? And my response is, well, for folks that are going through it, it's bad enough. What does it need to be, folks? I mean, do we have to have another 2008 for our industry to wake up and say, maybe we should help some folks? I hope and pray it never gets that bad. Can it? Maybe. Do I know? No, nobody knows. Nobody has that kind of a crystal ball. Another challenge is you're all for helping people. Good luck finding a class because most brokerages, they don't even offer the CDP. They won't even talk to us. So this is what this is all about. So look, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but not our own facts, right? You can agree with that? So let's talk about, is there a real need for this? Is there a market for what I'm talking about? So write this stuff down. I'm only going to take about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm going to point you in the right direction. All right. So let's start with, I want to show you a trend. So I'm going to go back to July because I want to show you, because I teach this like once a month. Let's go back to July. In July, because I follow this every month, we saw the numbers. Ooh, wait a minute. People started paying attention. In July, foreclosure starts were up 11% from the month before and 13% from the year before. Oh, maybe an abnormality, right? Okay, so then August comes around. And then we saw that it was down slightly from the month before, but man, it was up 18 against the year before. Hold on a second. Hold on, maybe we got something here. And by the way, you know what my source is? adamdata.com, right there at the bottom of the screen, adamdata.com. In fact, the numbers that I was telling you about, the 3rd quarter numbers and the September numbers, came out today. Go check them out. So here's what they posted, right? For September, down ever so slightly against the month before, but check it out, man, up 20% from the year before. And then the quarter is up 17% from the year before. It's real, folks. It's happening. No, it's not happening in all states. It's not happening to the level that it was in 2008, but it's happening on a level that I think we need to pay attention to. And also, I want to talk about some things that I think are going to contribute to those numbers continuing to grow. By the way, top 3 states, Nevada was number 1 for August. Now Florida is number 1. Nevada is number 2. South Carolina is number 3. You go on adamdata.com, you'll see the complete list of all states and where you rank. Now, something else to keep an eye on is mortgage delinquency rates. This is an indicator of what's happening. Now, here's the bull that you're fed. Okay, here's the stuff that they're feeding us. That mortgages delinquencies are historically low levels. I agree, because they're factoring in Fannie Mae loans, Freddie Mac loans, conventional loans, and they're not struggling right now. Those folks are not struggling. But no one is really paying attention to FHA. FHA is that big bad monster knocking on the door. In fact, you guys have got to go check out my YouTube channel, because just 2 weeks ago, I interviewed a gentleman, John Comiskey, and I reached out to John because John blew the lid off of what's been going on with FHA and how many people in default with FHA mortgages are getting repeated partial claim mortgages. So check it out, man. They'll make 3 payments. They'll stop making payments for 6 months. FHA goes in there and says, no worries, man, we'll do a partial claim mortgage. They make 1 or 2 payments. They go back and miss 6 or 7 more. They do another partial claim. He even talked about an example of somebody getting 14 partial claim mortgages. But it all stopped in October 1st. You got to check out that recording. Now, I would say the following prior to this interview I did. I say, you guys, you know that 1 in 10 FHA mortgages is in default. Shouldn't that freak you out, man? Shouldn't it freak you out that 1 in 10 FHA mortgages is headed to foreclosure? And John said, hold on a second, Tony, it's about 1 in 8 right now. Talk about people that bought houses in the last couple of years and they overpay for their houses and they only put 3.5% down and they've already started missing payments. And what I said that it all ends in October is there's a whole new rule that went into effect because finally somebody woke up and said, knock this crap off. So watch that. You know what the other one is? VA. Because there was a moratorium in place for the longest time on VA loans. In fact, the VA was actually buying up these loans and becoming the holder of these loans and modifying it for the vets, but that's done now. So watch what's going to happen in that area. Check out that video. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some other things. You know what my wife told me the other day? God bless her. She said, Tony, I watch your presentations. You know, she's my biggest fan. I love her. But she says, man, you are one depressing dude. I go, what are you talking about? I go, man, it's like the first 15, 20 minutes of your presentation is about all these bad things that are going to happen. And I go, listen, my love, I don't sell ice cream. I don't sell balloons at the park. Okay. You know, my designation is kind of real. And it's like, I'm not the only one. Can you imagine if I was teaching probate? How more depressing does it get than probate? You know, but here's the reality. There's going to be more foreclosures. And people say, how do you know that? Okay, because of consumer debt. Do you know that right now Americans owe $1.2 trillion in credit card debt? Insane. Okay. Student loans. You know they have to start paying them now, right? You know that they're not paying them, right? This is going to be incredible. In fact, very soon, they'll actually be able to start garnishing wages now on student loans. Unemployment, you know, this has been swept under the rug, man. This is not front page news, but I follow a lot of stats and there's a lot of folks being let go for a variety of reasons. Well, one, AI. Other things is Americans are finally like not spending money like drunken sailors. No disrespect to any drunken sailors in the audience, but we're finally saying enough is enough, man. And people are being let go. Well, mortgages don't necessarily reset because most people, what they do, I'll talk about that in a second, but most people got, you know, fixed rates. But guess what what else went up? Their property insurance, their property taxes, homeowners associations. And you guys know this. I mean, don't believe me, check it out, but about 62% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Did you know that 33% of Americans that make over $150,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck? Do you know that only 40% of Americans, when surveyed about whether they had $1,000 liquid sitting there ready just in case of an emergency, only 40% of Americans have $1,000 in their savings account? We have a lot of folks that are making some really good money. They get laid off. They don't got the money for the next mortgage payment. Now, there are adjustable rate mortgages out there. They've been silent, but deadly, because now they're resetting. And you know, folks that took buy downs, they're resetting and they can't afford those payments. And God forbid someone took advantage of one of the state down payment assistance programs, because so many of those within a short period of time head into default, because we want as many people to be homeowners as possible. But sadly, a lot of these folks are not truly qualified. Now, people go, Tony, hold on a second. Here's where I disagree, man. We're an equity-rich nation. I call bull on that, and I'll tell you why. Most Americans, many Americans, have been using their homes as an ATM card. Let me tell you about one of my agents that is trying to help a veteran that needs to sell. This guy has refinanced his home 5 times in the last 5 years. Pulled out cash every time. Guess what? He's underwater now. And he can't afford the payments. I don't think there's as much equity out there as people think for that reason. Plus, what is the valuation based on? The sales that we made in 2021 and 22 when people paid $50,000, $100,000 over appraised price? No, I think there are a lot of people that are borderline. And I think every single month, more and more people go into underwater category. And that's where we come in. One of the things I got to get across, though, before I get too far, the CDPE in its first incarnation was really all about short sales. Because if you were around in 2008, 9, and 10 doing this business, 70% of the foreclosures back in the day were underwater. Everything was short sales, right? Now, at least over the past 4 years, it's been reversed. 60, 70% of the folks that are in foreclosure actually have equity. Now, explain something to me, Lucy. Why would somebody with equity allow the bank to take their home as opposed to listing with one of us? It's simple. We're not assertive enough. We're not out there knocking on doors. We're not out there asking them, what are you doing about this? You know who is doing that? The wholesalers. You know who's doing that? A lot of scam artists. I can't tell you how many times people tell me this, Tony, and I say this in the class. In the class, I go ahead and I tell people, look, it's very important that when you're on the phone with somebody and they're reaching out to you and they need help, you got to check who's on the deed. You got to check who's on the deed. You ask them who's on the deed and they say, my husband and me. Okay. But like Reagan, trust but verify, right? So I say, be looking on the tax rolls and pull up their home and then ask them, do you own an LLC called We Really Screwed You LLC? And they're going to say, no. Well, guess what? They're the owners of your property now. Let me guess. Somebody knocked on your door not too long ago, probably a really nice looking couple. Am I right? And they go, yeah. And they said, we're here to help, which is like the government saying, we're here to help. Yeah. And they asked to be invited in. Yeah. And I go, look, folks, you got to be off the subject here because I'm just going to have fun with you guys today because I may not even do another one of these for a while. But I'm big into the vampire genre. Anybody here into the vampire genre? You know that a vampire must be invited in, right? They just can't walk in. So these folks It asked to be invited in, and you did. You know what you did? You invited these vampires into your home. And let me guess, within a short period of time, you signed a few documents, didn't you? Yes, we did. You signed over your deed to these folks. You're not even the owners of this home anymore. What I'm going to do is give you some great stuff. It just happens to be stuff that I teach in the course. Go figure. And if you're wondering, how do you compare to SFR? Well, we don't. SFR is the NAR course. Yeah, it's there. I'm jaded in my opinion. So you know what I do? I ask folks that have taken SFR and folks that have taken CDPE, what do you think? There is no comparison. I asked ChatGPT, we're number one. But at the end of the day, folks, it's not just the content. I don't have a problem with you guys having the SFR. I don't care if you have a VIP and SOB. I don't care about all that stuff. But if you're going to work the short sales, pre-foreclosure market, you owe it to yourself to take the best course in the industry, and that's us. What's our mission? To help as many people stay in their home as possible. Counterintuitive. We don't make any money helping them stay, but it's the right thing to do. Sadly, by the time they get to us, it's too late. So then we go to plan B, which is what? Help them exit with dignity. Write those 3 words down. Exit with dignity. All right. So let me share some stuff from the class. First and foremost, to work this arena, you have to understand what foreclosure is and what foreclosure isn't. I have a module called Foreclosures Demystified. Let's start with the fact that many folks don't know that it's a process. A lot of folks feel that the minute papers are served to them, they got to bug out and they got to move, and they do. And they're called zombie foreclosures. Look that up. Now, foreclosures are very state specific. Every state does it a different way. Now, when I teach you how to do short sales, that's different. Short sales are done the same all over the country. I don't care what state you're in, the CDPE applies to you. But you have to do your own due diligence about how the process works in your state. Example, find out if your state is judicial, non-judicial, or both. That's very important because judicial states, the process is much slower. New York, New Jersey, Florida, judicial states, it can take 12, 18 months. Nevada, non-judicial. Texas, non-judicial. It goes much, much faster. Now, don't be fooled. Sometimes people are foreclosed on because they're behind on their HOA or they're behind on their property taxes. Keep an eye out for this. Some HOAs are ruthless. They really want the homes. They want to take it away from these folks so they can turn around and rent them to somebody else until the time comes for them to give it up. The vast majority of foreclosures are mortgage default related. All right. Next, how does it begin? Well, on day 31, they're now officially in default. Are they in foreclosure? No, they may not be in foreclosure for months because the banks are not in a hurry to take that house back. That's right. They're not in a hurry to take the house. By federal law, the servicers have to wait to the borrower is at least 120 days in default. 4 months. Sadly, a lot of these folks don't use that time wisely. And by the time we get into the picture, it's much more further along than we hoped it would be. Then there's the legal notice. All right. Again, some is through the courts, some is non-judicial, like say Nevada. But they're going to be served papers or they're going to receive paperwork, and it's called different things in different states. The thing you have to keep an eye on is, does it have a sale date? Do they have a sale date, and when? And what I'm about to teach you can make you a lot of money if you just pay attention. You can take a listing on somebody losing their home up to the day before they lose their home. Up to the day before they lose their home. Because you still have time to implement some strategies that can stall, delay that foreclosure action. And I go into all that into my course. Don't be one of these people that found out from someone that says, oh, well, they only have 2 weeks left. They only have a few days left. I can't help them, right? Of course you can. You can make the attempt to help them. We can't guarantee that we'll be successful, but you make the attempt. Pay attention to this and find out whether this applies to your state or not. Does your state have a redemption period? Now, redemption period can mean a couple different things. I'm talking about redemption period as it applies to post foreclosure. Example, Michigan and Minnesota. After the borrower, homeowner, loses the home, do you know that they have several months redemption period where the bank has to sit on their hands and cannot take the house away because these folks are given that time to miraculously come up with the money to pay for the mortgage in full? How often does that ever happen? But it does exist. Find out if your state has a redemption period. Most of the time, once the hammer comes down, the gavel comes down, it's all over for these folks. Why should they avoid foreclosure? Why not just let the bank take the house? I'm done. I've had enough, because it comes with serious consequences. So let's start. And by the way, when I teach this, I encourage the agents to memorize this, because these become the arrows in your quiver. And you have to role play so that you feel comfortable when somebody throws something your way, and you can just go ahead and roll with it and say, oh yeah, I get it, but have you given this some thought? All right, so let's lead with the following. It's going to have tremendous impact, negative impact on their purchasing power because of their credit, right? Foreclosures can stay on a credit report for up to 7 years. Bankruptcy, 10 years. All right, I'm going to share a little dialogue from my class, right? You're talking to someone and say, dude, you don't want the bank to take the house. I don't care, man. Let them take the house. I'm done with this. I go, but it's going to hurt you. You know, a foreclosure can stay on your credit report for up to 7 years, bro. Man, thanks, but I don't care. I'll buy everything cash from now on. I don't care. Huh. All right. Well, let me ask you this before I leave you. Do you think you'd ever want to be a homeowner again in the future? Yeah, why not? I go, well, think about this. If you have a foreclosure on your record, you may not qualify for a standard mortgage for 5 to 7 years. But if you let me help you with a short sale, you might be a homeowner again as little as 2 years, my brother. What would you rather have? Live with the restriction or have the option? It's all about conversation, because they're in a bad place right now. They're not thinking straight. You have to be the one that says, yeah, I get it, but. And then there's employment. How many consumers out there know that they could be laid off or fired because they have a foreclosure on their record? You think most people know this? No. You think most people know that they may never get the job they want because they have a foreclosure on their record? No. But you need to know this. What about all these professions now that have security clearances? What do you think could happen to their security clearance with a foreclosure on their record? It's gone, baby. There goes the job. Do they know this? Some do, some don't. And that's where you come in. You have to educate them, right? Now, many states, not all, but many states allow for the banks to go after them after a foreclosure for any loss. So let's say they're underwater, all right? They're underwater. They don't do a short sale. The bank forecloses, the bank disposes of the property, and the bank loses $100,000. Guess what? If the bank thinks that there was some funny business going on or other things, the bank or banks could decide to pursue deficiency judgment against these folks. You think they know that? Now, how many times you'll hear this from a short sale instructor? It could actually apply in a short sale as well. That's why it's not enough to get the bank or banks to approve the short sale. It's imperative that we also get them to waive the right to pursue deficiency action against the individuals. This is huge, folks. I can't tell you how many folks wake up to the realization of, what's this? They're coming after us? They took the house and they're coming after us for the money? Yeah. Now, if they have no choice but to leave, all right, you already went over all the various ways that they could potentially stay in the class. I covered that in chapter 7. But they can't, right? They can't stay in the home. They can't afford it. They have no choice but to leave. Well, if they have equity, then list it and sell it as a regular sale. Now, the beauty of this is because there's equity, there's no short sale, there's no special paperwork that you have to do. You don't have to jump through all these hoops, but you have to keep an eye on the sale date. You have to get it done before the sale date comes around. Just because they have equity doesn't mean the bank won't foreclose. In fact, they might be more motivated to foreclose. You can help them, but you got to get it listed, sold, and closed before the sale date. Make sure, in fact, here's another gift for you. On every single listing you take from now on, if you're not doing this already, do it. Always perform a lien search. Have your title company perform a lien search. Do you know how many people have partial claim mortgages that they have forgotten about? Do you know how many people have a forbearance agreement that they did during COVID that they forgot about? Or people that took out a home equity line of credit and don't know that it's actually a lien against their property? There are folks that are taking regular listings, come to find out they're underwater because the agent did not perform these actions at the very beginning. Don't let that happen to you, okay? Next, if they're underwater, then a short sale becomes a conversation. Write this down. Just because they're in foreclosure doesn't mean they're underwater. They're not the same. If they're in foreclosure and they're underwater, and by the way, what do I mean by underwater? They owe more on the property than they can sell it for, right? This is how much they owe. And then on top of that, you have closing costs and compensation. But the market says it's only worth this much underwater. That's where the conversation should turn into the possibility of a short sale. So what do we do in a short sale? Well, we list it at a price we think the bank will accept. We get it under contract. We package all of the documents. Better yet, I'm working with a skilled professional negotiator. I'm collecting the documents that they're going to need. And this skilled negotiator is going to send all of this off to the lender or lenders. And then the party begins. Then we begin the whole process of getting the property appraised, or a BPO is done. And then the negotiations go into mode. Short sales are not a get me out of my mortgage free card. It was used like this in 2008, 9, and 10, but the lenders are too smart now. It's meant for those that meet all of the qualifications, okay? Strategic default is when somebody can afford to pay and chooses not to. Now, you know when that, we're not seeing a lot of this right now, and I'll tell you what will trigger it. Let's say somebody is able to make their payments and they have equity. You know they're going to do everything they can to keep that house. Then maybe they start to struggle, or they see their home value go down. That's what happened in 2008, 9, and 10. We had a whole lot of people that could afford to make the payments, but their property value dropped so significantly that they decided, I don't want to keep making payments on a home that's $100,000 underwater. And they basically defaulted strategically. Don't get caught up with those folks. That's bad news. It's against the law to do that, okay? I mentioned that a short sale is for those that meet all the qualifications. Well, what are those? There needs to be a hardship. Remember earlier I was joking and somebody said, do I get to pick whichever sounds worse from one of these? No, it must actually apply to you. You must be able to prove that it applies to you. Is that all the bank is looking for? No. The bank wants to see your monthly expenses versus your monthly income. You should have more month at the end of the money. Because if every month you're making more than enough to pay your mortgage and your bills, why are you even bothering talking to the bank? You got to produce receipts, folks. They're not going to take your word for it. Write this down. Whenever I interview someone, this is how I'll teach you to interview them. You're going to say, folks, I'm going to need to ask you some questions to find out if you are an ideal candidate. Write down ideal candidate for a short sale. And that's going to be based on 3 criteria, not mine, the bank's. What hardship are we talking about? Tell me about your income versus expenses. And last but not least, are you insolvent, which is a fancy word for broke? Because the bank is going to look at everything that you have, man. Can you imagine sitting across the table from someone that is struggling? I believe that they're struggling. I see that they're struggling, but they have $100,000 sitting in a savings account. They're not insolvent, man. That's going to be a difficult, next to impossible short sale to negotiate. Now, if the money is tied up in an IRA or 401k, they can't seize it. So they'll say they can go after. No. They can't seize it. These are retirement accounts. But they can factor it into their decision-making as to whether they want to allow you to do a short sale or not. They may ask for a contribution. You got to take each situation as it comes, right? And I get into all this, of course. Now, let me conclude today with just a couple of ideas. I go into much more specificity in the class, but I just want to throw a couple things your way because I haven't even looked at the questions, right? The chat room, but I'm sure somebody put in there, how do you find these folks? All right. Well, it's public record. Once they have been, once formal foreclosure action has been initiated, it's public record now. But here's what I need you to do. Here's a little exercise that I always do. Work with me on this. Take a sheet of paper and draw 3 columns, all right? 3 quick columns. Then put A, B, C on those 3 columns. Under A, put 70%, under B, 20%, and under C, 10%. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom right now. Working backwards means that 70% of whatever amount of time you're going to work in this niche needs to be spent on folks that have a sale date. So you first zero in on folks that have an actual sale date, because this is public record. It's right there in the courthouse site. They're running out of time. They're running out of excuses. 20% of your time is for folks that are officially in foreclosure, but don't have a sale date yet. That can change overnight. Now, why? Because the more time people have, the more time they'll stay in their home rent-free. You feel me? When you go to them and you show them, by the way, I'm a foreclosure prevention advocate. By the way, that's another key to the kingdom I just shared with you. Introduce yourself as a foreclosure prevention advocate with whatever firm you're with. Are you aware that your home has a sale date of next week? Many of these folks don't even know that. Okay. Now, the 10%, these are folks that you don't know, right? They're not in foreclosure yet. They're in default, but they're not in foreclosure yet. So how do you reach them? Social media. You got to up your game. You got to advertise yourself as a CDPE. You got to let people know that if they or anybody they know is facing foreclosure and doesn't know what to do, that you're the person to contact. Okay. Now, some MLSs have IMAP and other services for free that you can pull up this data. I recommend that you sign up with RedX. I use RedX because I want a clean list, and I want a list that gives me phone numbers that are scrubbed against the do not call list. The courthouse records are not going to give you phone numbers. I want email addresses, so that I can both email them, and I want to upload it to a system where through social media, I'm reaching out directly to people. See, they may not answer my phone calls. They may not return my letters. They may not even return my emails, but if they get hit in their face in social media, are you behind on your mortgage and don't know what to do? That may get their attention. I'm a big proponent of the one-to-many approach to selling. I'll give you an example. If I was doing the same, would I do the same presentation for one person, one agent to try to sell on the CDP? No, that wouldn't be a good use of my time. But as I sit here right now, there's 51 of you on the call, right? This conversation, since I'm recording it, it's going to reach a lot more agents than just the ones that are here. I believe that more agents should be doing foreclosure prevention webinars or Zooms. So here's how you do them, right? I believe you do it by Zoom as opposed to live and in person. I think that live and in person can work, but people might be hesitant to go into an environment where everybody knows their business. So I would use Zoom. If you're multilingual, perfect. That gives you a tremendous advantage. I could do it in Espanol, I could do it in English, whatever, right? Now, if you really want people to attend, then promote it as a stop foreclosure or foreclosure prevention Zoom or webinar, and really make most of the content about what they could do to possibly stay in their home. If you're unsure about doing this on your own, and I get it, when you've never done it before, why not ask a foreclosure defense attorney or a real estate attorney to be on the call with you? They can do the heavy lifting, right? They're looking for more business. Why wouldn't they do it? So that's an idea that you should do, right? Now, Daniel here is one of my CDPs in Hawaii, and he's killing it. He does these every month. And this is the marketing piece that he uses. Notice it says, stop foreclosure seminar. Learn your options. Are you facing foreclosure? That's good, man. And it talks about, hey, for more information, contact me. There he is, proudly displaying the CDPE. And then he's given them 3 different options. It's working for him. Hawaii isn't even a big foreclosure state right now. Hawaii might be 33rd in the nation. And yet he's getting people to these classes. And he shared this in our private Facebook group. And one of our other CDPs asked him, I would love more information on your webinar. And Daniel responded, just use Tony Martinez's presentation. All right. And you're like, wow, Tony, what do you mean? I go, folks, I do them as well for my team. And I've recorded myself doing these. And you know what I decided to do? That's the beauty of recording this. The first time you do this, or anytime you do this, you may not get a lot of people on the Zoom. You got to promote it very aggressively. But let's say you got 4 or 5 people on it. Doesn't matter. You record it. And now you have the recording. You know what I decided to do? I share the recording of me doing it for consumers in our CDPE members resources portal. If you're a CDPE, you will have access to playing that over and over and over again. So you know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. I think that's kind of cool. But it gets better because I actually share my PowerPoint with my CDPEs as well. You don't have to start with a blank sheet of paper. You can go ahead and just use mine and change whatever you want. My class is not a one and done thing. You get the training, then you get the membership. As part of the membership, I'm constantly doing everything I can to support your efforts. Now, if I struck a chord and you see this as a way of growing your business and helping consumers, the next step is to get the right training. I believe, as I stated before, nothing can come close to the CDPE. There's 3 different ways that I teach it, go into in a second, but here's everything I cover. I cover soup to nuts, everything you need to know to be effective in this field. And again, they don't have to be underwater for you to help them. But the vast majority of the class is short sales. Because remember, when they have equity, it's just like a regular sale, but with urgency. So all of your stuff here and more, I teach, all right? When you graduate from the class, you now have a 1-year membership in the CDPE and you get access to some cool stuff. First and foremost, your completion certificate. Share this with the world. Make sure that you are marketing yourself as an expert. Next, you'll be able to access the private area through the login where I share forms. Oh my God, the CDPE forms that I share are amazing. I got scripts, I got videos. I got the PowerPoint presentation for the foreclosure prevention. All that is through your portal. You got to visit your portal more than once. When you first graduate, you got to go on the portal because you have to download all of the forms that I shared during the class. But then don't go like, oh, okay, I'll see you next year. No, make sure you're going back for more because we're adding more stuff. We have a private Facebook group, which is the way we communicate with our community. And I'm very proud of the community that we've built. I see CDPs supporting each other by answering questions, even though they have no financial interest in it at all. They want to help. I have an area where CDPEs can find other CDPEs for potential agent-to-agent referrals. I don't get anything on that. That's just for you guys to work out your own referral fees. When I do the live and in-person ones, it's rare, but every now and then I do have a class coming up. Hopefully I'm doing this one in Las Vegas on the 21st. We just have to get enough agents going. Agents tend to wait until the last week to do anything, but it puts me in a spot because I have to make travel arrangements. If you're in Las Vegas, you got to go to this class because it's rare that I'm actually bringing the class live and in person to you. It's being hosted by Fidelity, the title company. They're participating, Merit Lending. It's going to be at a training room. Please take advantage of this. I hit you with all of this stuff in one day, and you get to save $100 because my class is normally $499. It's only $399. They're going to have breakfast. They're going to have lunch. What else do you need? So that's October 21st. And you'll be able to sign up at cdpdesignation.com, or Jeanette will post it here. So that's the only live one I got coming up right now. What most people do is take the online on demand because you can have access to it 5 minutes from now. You do it at your pace, right? You have a year to do it. Don't take a year to do it. But you know what I mean? It's self-paced. And there are agents that are like, no, I don't want to sit in the classroom all day. I just want to knock this out as quickly as possible. Fantastic. This is perfect for you. Normally it's $499, but I'm giving you guys $100 off for putting up with me on this Zoom. But you got to enter the code Zoom100. Without that Zoom100, the cart will still continue to say $499. Jeanette will post a link in the chat area for you guys to go. Now, I think the perfect mix of the two is when I do it by Zoom, because it is live. It's me teaching it live via Zoom, but it's not me live in person. I get to reach a broader audience. The last one that I'm doing for the year, and maybe for a long time, is coming up the end of October. This is perfect timing for y'all. It's October 29th and 30th. I do it over 2 days because it's just too much to be at a computer the entire day. Both days is from 1 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you account for your time zone. 2 days. And the beauty of that is you get to ask me questions. The online on demand, you can't. It's all recorded. But this one you can. And again, you can save $100 by using the Zoom100. People have asked me, Tony, do you have payment terms? I did, and it was one of the toughest decisions I ever made because agents would make the first payment, not make the second. I said, no, I don't want to be a collector. So I use Klarna. And what I love about Klarna is that I get my money up front, but they give 4 interest-free payments to the agents. I know times are a little tough right now, but through the cart area, you can select the option to pay by PayPal or pay by credit card, but you can also do it through Klarna, and that gives you access to their payment structure. So we both win in that scenario. And then drum roll, I'm going to give you my final pitch of the day. And man, my timing is perfect. I'm going to do a 2-for-1. I don't want you guys to be stressing between, do I do the online or do I do the Zoom? If you sign up for the online on demand, I will give you the Zoom course as well at no additional price. 2-for-1, baby. Now, if you're in Las Vegas and you're thinking, Tony, but I want to take the live one. Well, let's hope and pray we can pull off that class. What I usually do is the folks that attend that class, I also will give you access to the Zoom one as well. That is so cool. Because if I'm there live and in person, I'm hitting you with stuff. It could be like taking a sip of water from a fire hydrant. But then the following week, you could be on the Zoom call. You're already a CDPE. You already have access to everything. But you now can take the Zoom one so that you can go ahead and go, oh, that's what he meant by that. And all of this includes the first year, folks. It's only $99 a year after that. That's 27 cents a day. I think, and it's been 27 cents a day since the CDP started back in the day. I'm not motivated to raise the price. I'm trying to get as many people back into the movement as possible. So yes, it would be $399. It includes the class, the first year, and then only $99 a year thereafter. If you don't use it and you don't want it, you can cancel, no big deal. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and go into the chat area and see if there are any questions. Las Vegas here. Okay, I'm going scrolling quickly. Let's go, Keller Williams. Yeah, I mean, there's guys, Las Vegas, #2. You guys have like 9,000 agents in Las Vegas. And I'm being very reasonable. I'll come out for 15 or 20. You know, 15 or 20, your one office should get that many people there. All right. Let's go. All right, so we see here. Keep going. All right, we share the links, everything else. Thanks. Specialized in probate and trust can be quite depressing. Yeah, I mean, the next big niche, and I probably will start teaching it as well, is probate. You know, probate, yeah, unfortunately, nobody leaves this life alive. That's a huge niche. Okay, Did you see Sinners? Of course, Jacob, I saw Sinners. Why do you think I brought up the whole vampire thing? Great movie. Yep. Look, Laura, I don't know what you mean by 5 days. You may be talking about something that is state specific. You know, that's why I mean you need to find out exactly how things work in your state. All right. So Britt asked, he's in Florida. I thought that they had a 10-day redemption period update. Okay, so here's what Florida has. Florida does not really have a true redemption period. They have this 10-day window. Yes, you know what that 10 days is for? Some miracle to happen and you find the money. But it's really how long it takes the sheriff to issue a new certificate of title. Now, you cannot take a listing during those 10 days, but let's say you were working with these folks, you had the listing, you even had it under contract, man, you even had a closing date and something went wrong and someone didn't do their job and they foreclosed. Well, yeah, you have those 10 days for an attorney or the homeowner to go before the judge and say, Your Majesty, hold on a second, something went wrong here. And then they stand a chance of maybe having the foreclosure vacated, giving the opportunity for the person to go ahead and move forward with the short sale. You can't take a listing in that time. I had somebody call me once for a postcard I sent out, And one of the first questions I ask him is, do you have a sale date? And he goes, yes. I go, when? Yesterday. And I went, Ish, why didn't you call me the day before, man? I might have been able to help you. Okay. So I couldn't help them. I said, you got to go lawyer up. Who is going to pay for the lien search? Well, that's a great question. How good a relationship do you have for your title company? There are some title companies that to earn your business, they'll take care of it. You know what? If you stand to get a listing out of it, maybe you'll pay for it. Now, let's say it's a regular sale scenario. They have equity. The homeowner needs to pay for it. You know, of course they need to pay for it. I go, and you know how I pitch it to him? I go, listen, let's not have any surprises because that's the worst thing that can happen, right? So I've already negotiated with my title company. We can get this done for you for $50, $75, whatever. And I think it's an investment that needs to be done. Okay. And as Jacob said, the title rep might be able to do it for you. Exactly. How much do they want your relationship with you? Okay. We got links that have been shared. I'm in Las Vegas. Let's go sign up and everything else. Solar contracts are tough. They will not negotiate. Solar contracts will typically not reduce their amount. I never say never, but more often than not, they need to be paid in full. So all that money is going to come off the top. That means the first is going to receive less money. Okay. Is it worth it to market to foreclosure trustee companies? I'm not quite sure what you mean by foreclosure trustee companies. I would have to get more specificity. That's something that maybe you can write to, or if you're still on the call, you can unmute yourself and ask. In California, it was charged off. Again, if that solar is a lien against the property, okay, it's going to have to be settled. If it's been charged off, then again, the lien is still there, and maybe the company will negotiate to go ahead and do it, or it's got to come off the first.
Tony?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, it's Laura.
Hi, Laura.
So I get a listing every 1 or 2 weeks, or about every week or every 2 weeks, regarding NOTs, the Notice of Trustee Sale, and of course NODs. And in those listings from a title company, it shows the delinquent amount. It also shows who is the company that is charged with the foreclosure. So that's where I was asking, is it better is it okay to market to those people as well, or those companies as well? Or
well, I
really
guess it
stick
depends
to
upon what's the motivation of those companies. If they're first, find out who is the owner of the property, because at the end of the day, the property may have already been foreclosed on, and these companies are they're trying to maybe wholesale it, or they're just trying to sell it. If the property is still in the name of the owners and the property has not been listed by another real estate professional, you absolutely can go after them. You know, verify with your broker. But yes, that's the first thing you do is who is the owner? And that's why my niche is pre-foreclosure. Notice that I mentioned that it's game over once the foreclosure happens. I'm not an REO specialist. I don't teach agents to go after REOs because that's a market that's very difficult to capture because there aren't a lot of REOs. And most of the REO agents are already in place. To become an REO agent, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops, do BPOs, do all this kind of stuff. And even then, you might never have a chance to ever get it. Every single person that's losing their home right now that is still the owner of the property, you have the opportunity to sit across the table from. That's your biggest share of the market. Okay.
Thank you.
I used to do short sales and start again this year. In fact, I'm currently working on what does your survey offer that's different from now. We're doing short sales now. Look, I'll tell you something very transparent. Short sales haven't changed that much. It's not like something happened and miraculously everything changed. No, it's still by and large the same process. And what something I have changed is I no longer teach agents how to negotiate short sales, because that's one of the worst expenditures of your time that you can have. Now, we had no choice in 2008. We had to teach you because nobody else was doing it. But now you have professional negotiators that do it for a living. and the liability is too great. The CDPE is more about how I teach you to interact with the consumer, because that's really the key. You have to take as many listings as possible. What's standing in your way? Maybe not knowing what to say, how to say it, when to say it. The other thing is the credibility that it affords you. For some people, it means nothing. For other people, it can mean the world. What qualifies you to work with me? I'm a CDPE. I'm a certified distressed property expert. I live for this stuff. So yes, that's where the value in my course is. And the part about has much changed? No, a lot hasn't changed. It's still get it in there as quickly as possible, get the package as complete as you can, and stay on top of it. The 10% is the folks that you don't know. All right. So if they're not in foreclosure yet, they're not popping up on any list except maybe for Delaware. I think Delaware is the only state that allows the publishing of folks who are in default that are not yet in foreclosure, which can be good and bad. So how do you get the 10%? Word of mouth. How do you get the 10%? Social media. If part of what you do in marketing yourself as a real estate professional is reaching out to people that are behind on their mortgage payments and don't know what to do, now you get that buzz. Now you have people sharing that information. So that's what you want to do. It says here, do you know why it's taking so long for lenders to file? Well, I think my humble opinion is because banks do not want the house. That's a myth. The servicers don't want to be homeowners. The servicers want to get paid. Even though they can initiate foreclosure action after 4 months, most will not. You know when they finally get around to it? When it's been a lot of months, 6, 7 months, and there's no communication from the homeowner, the borrower. One of the worst things a borrower can do is not communicate with the servicer. When there is no communication, the servicer feels there's no option but to initiate foreclosure, if for nothing else, to get their attention. Anyway, folks, I ran a little bit over, forgive me, but I wanted to address those questions. I hope this was beneficial to you all. We will get the recording out to folks later on this afternoon, tomorrow at the latest. If you have any questions, we've posted it. We'll post it again. support@cdpe.com is our email. support@cdpe.com. We have operators standing by, and we'll post the phone numbers as well. Anyway, folks, God bless you all. I hope you go out there and help as many people as possible avoid foreclosure. They need us. Let's rise to the occasion. Thank you so much, folks. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.